Everyone knows the big metal guy known as Colossus. He is sweet, kind, artistic, and usually the last person in the room who wants to start a fight. But when danger arrives, he can throw cars, tear through reinforced structures, and stand against enemies who would flatten most other X-Men. Calling him merely the team's gentle giant massively undersells his character. I genuinely believe that Colossus deserves a movie of his own because Piotr Rasputin is one of the most emotionally complicated and physically fascinating members of the X-Men. Today, however, we are focusing on his biology. What actually happens when Piotr transforms? Does only his skin become metallic? Does he breathe? Can he feel pain? Can he rust? What happens when the Hulk bends his arm backwards? And how much worse does everything become when you combine his organic steel body with the power of Juggernaut? Let's go deeper and examine what it means to become a living metal organism.
Right next to the prostate, or is that the on switch?
Is it just metal skin, or is he a metal organism? Colossus is not an ordinary human being wearing a layer of metallic armor. When Piotr activates his mutation, the tissues throughout his entire body transform into an organic, steel-like substance. That includes far more than his skin. His muscles, bones, connective tissue, organs, and blood are all converted into corresponding metallic forms. He must transform his entire body rather than turning only one arm or one section of skin into metal. Marvel generally describes the substance as organic steel with properties analogous to osmium and carbon steel. Its exact composition remains fictional and has not been explained through conventional chemistry. That distinction is important. If Colossus merely possessed metallic skin, his organs would remain vulnerable beneath the armor. A powerful impact could leave the surface intact, while damaging the heart, lungs, brain, or blood vessels underneath. But Piotr's transformation reinforces the whole structure. His skeleton supports the additional weight. His muscles generate tremendous force. His internal systems continue functioning despite no longer being made from conventional flesh. That is also why repairing him can become so complicated. Following injuries sustained during the mutant massacre, Magneto used his magnetic powers to realign Colossus's damaged metallic cellular structure. He was not simply closing a cut in the skin, he was manipulating the transformed material that made up Piotr's body. So, Colossus is not a man trapped inside a metal shell. For as long as the transformation remains active, he is a living metal organism from the surface down. Does he eat, drink, breathe, or sleep in his armored form? While transformed, Colossus does not require food, water, or oxygen to sustain himself. That ability allows him to remain active in environments that would quickly kill an ordinary human being. He can operate underwater without drowning. He can survive temporary exposure to vacuum. Smoke, poisonous gases, and environments without breathable air are far less dangerous when his armored form remains active. This does not mean that his metallic lungs are simply holding their breath. His transformed body no longer depends on ordinary oxygen exchange in the way human tissue does. The same applies to food and water. Piotr does not need to stop during a prolonged armored period to eat a meal or rehydrate. His transformed physiology sustains itself according to rules that Marvel has never fully explained. But the claim that he never needs to sleep should be treated more carefully. His armored form possesses tremendous stamina, and he has remained transformed for extended periods. That does not automatically prove he is completely incapable of mental fatigue or that sleep has no value to him. Sleep is not only about repairing tired muscle tissue, it is also connected to memory, cognition, and psychological health. The safest conclusion is that Colossus's armored body can function for an extremely long time without the ordinary physical requirements that limit humans. Whether his mind eventually benefits from rest is a different question. So no, he does not need to count calories while made of organic steel, but Piotr may still occasionally need peace and quiet and a very reinforced bed. How big and heavy does Colossus become? Piotr Rasputin is already enormous in his ordinary human form. Marvel has listed his normal weight at approximately 250 pounds. When he transforms, he reaches around 7 feet 5 inches and weighs approximately 500 pounds. That means his weight roughly doubles. This increase is not merely cosmetic. Mass plays an important role in momentum and impact. When Colossus runs, tackles someone, or throws a punch, he is moving an enormous metallic body powered by subhuman muscles. But saying that force equals mass multiplied by acceleration does not fully explain his punching power. Impact depends on several factors, including momentum, kinetic energy, speed, contact time, and the structural strength of the body delivering the blow. Colossus has advantages in all of those areas. He possesses extraordinary mass. He can move that mass with superhuman speed. His transformed skeleton and joints can withstand forces that would destroy ordinary human bones. And his body does not crumple when he strikes something durable. That final detail matters. An ordinary person could not safely deliver Colossus-level force because the hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder would fail under the impact. Pyotr's whole body transforms into a structure capable of supporting his strength. His power also increased following Magneto's repair of his cellular structure after the mutant massacre. Marvel has depicted Colossus becoming stronger with maturity and experience, although his exact strength level changes between writers and eras. So when Colossus hits someone, he is not simply a large man punching hard. He is a half-ton superhuman metal body, directing tremendous energy through a fist designed to survive the collision. Is Colossus's metal body unbreakable? Colossus is extraordinarily durable, but he is not unbreakable. His armored body can withstand gunfire, explosions, massive impacts, falls, and attacks that would instantly kill most superheroes. Marvel has described him surviving heavy artillery, enormous explosive force, and collisions with fast-moving vehicles, but sufficient power can still damage him. One of the most famous examples occurs in World War Hulk, X-Men. Colossus attempts to stop the Hulk through a direct test of strength. The Hulk overpowers him, grabs his arms, and bends them backwards at the forearms until the metallic structure breaks. That injury creates a horrifying repair problem. Piotr cannot safely return to human form while his arms remain bent and damaged. Doing so could translate the deformation into catastrophic injuries to his flesh and blood body. In the following issue, Beast uses a laboratory laser to heat the organic steel close to its melting point. Strong Guy then forces the arms back into proper alignment while Piotr remains transformed. Only after the structure has been reset can Colossus safely return to human form. A Nimrod Sentinel also damages his arms during the Second Coming conflict, providing another example of sufficiently advanced force overcoming his durability. These injuries show that organic steel behaves more like extraordinarily resilient material than magical invulnerability. It can bend, it can break, it can be deformed. And when that happens, repairing Piotr becomes closer to emergency metallurgy than ordinary medicine. Why does Colossus never rust? Ordinary iron and many forms of steel rust through oxidation involving oxygen and moisture. Colossus has spent decades being exposed to rain, snow, oceans, atmospheric chemicals, energy attacks, and countless hostile environments. Yet his armored body does not gradually become covered in rust. The simple answer is that organic steel is not ordinary industrial steel. Marvel describes it as being analogous to osmium and carbon steel. But that comparison does not mean it shares every chemical weakness possessed by real-world alloys. It is a fictional living material generated by his mutation. It can transform back into human tissue. It can transmit sensation. It can sustain movement and consciousness. It also appears capable of maintaining itself without visible corrosion. Marvel has not provided a detailed biochemical explanation for this resistance. It may possess a passive non-reactive surface. It may continually regenerate at a microscopic level. Its molecular structure may not interact with oxygen and water in the way ordinary iron does. But those possibilities remain interpretations rather than confirmed mechanisms. What is confirmed through decades of appearances is that weather and ordinary moisture do not visibly degrade him. That does not mean every substance on Earth is harmless. Antarctic vibranium, also called savage land vibranium or antimetal, emits vibrations that weaken molecular bonds in nearby metals. That property makes it unusually dangerous to metallic opponents and objects. But Colossus's resistance to rust is not proof that he is immune to all terrestrial chemistry. It simply means that leaving him outside during a rainstorm will not turn him into a giant orange garden statue. How long can Colossus fight before he gets tired? Colossus possesses tremendous superhuman stamina. His armored body does not appear to fatigue at the rate of ordinary muscle tissue, and Marvel has described him as capable of sustaining peak physical exertion for extremely long periods. However, explaining this by claiming that he produces no lactic acid is unnecessarily specific. Modern exercise science does not treat lactic acid as the simple cause of fatigue anyway. Human muscular exhaustion involves energy availability, ion balance, nervous system output, tissue damage, hydration, temperature, and many other factors. Pyotr's transformed physiology bypasses most of those ordinary limitations. He does not require oxygen, food, or water while armored. His metallic muscles do not tear under strain the way conventional muscle fibers do. His body can continue producing enormous force without constantly stopping to refuel. That makes him ideal for prolonged rescue operations, sieges, and battles in places where other heroes would quickly become exhausted. But he is not an infinitely powered machine. Colossus can still be mentally overwhelmed, magically drained, injured, knocked unconscious, or physically overpowered. Extended combat against enemies such as the Hulk, Juggernaut, or powerful Sentinels can push him beyond his limits. The strongest conclusion is that his transformation eliminates many forms of ordinary biological fatigue, while granting him superhuman endurance. So yes, Piotr can probably finish far more household chores than any normal person without needing a break. Whether he wants to spend his mutant gifts moving everyone's furniture is another question. Can Colossus feel pain while he is made of metal? Colossus can feel pain in his armored form. The comics repeatedly show him reacting to crushing force, energy attacks, deformation, and serious injury. He grunts, cries out, loses consciousness, and experiences distress when his metal body is damaged. That means his sensory and nervous functions remain active, even though his tissues have transformed. He also retains sight, hearing, balance, coordination, and control over movement. His brain must receive information about the position and motion of his body, a sensory process known as proprioception. Without that feedback, Piotr would have difficulty controlling his limbs or judging how much strength he was using. But the script's original claim that his mutation specifically insulates and reinforces metallic nerves is not established canon. Marvel has never provided a complete anatomical diagram explaining whether he still possesses recognizable nerves or whether the organic steel transmits information through a different mechanism. We know the function remains. We do not know every biological step behind it. His ability to feel pain also serves an important protective purpose. Pain tells a living being that something has gone wrong. If Colossus felt nothing, he could continue fighting on a damaged limb until the structure failed completely. Unfortunately, this means that when Hulk bent his arms backwards and broke them, Piotr almost certainly experienced the injury, rather than watching it happen like detached machinery. His body may be metal, his suffering is still very real. What are the actual weaknesses of his metal body? Colossus does not have 3 officially established anatomical weak points. The idea that his joints are uniquely vulnerable sounds mechanically reasonable, but Marvel has not consistently identified his knees, elbows, or shoulders as a special Achilles heel. His real weaknesses are broader. The first, overwhelming physical force. Hulk, Juggernaut-level beings, advanced Sentinels, and other extremely powerful opponents can exceed the structural durability of his organic steel. The second is specialized material or energy interaction. Adamantium weapons can threaten extremely durable opponents, although Wolverine's ability to cut Colossus has varied depending on the story. Antarctic vibranium is particularly dangerous to metals because it weakens their molecular bonds. That does not mean it activates a confirmed biological safety switch inside Colossus. It means the substance interferes with metallic structures on a molecular level. The third weakness is that his physical armor does not protect him equally from every category of attack. Telepathy, mind control, reality alteration, certain magical effects, emotional manipulation, and attacks on the soul can bypass ordinary durability. Colossus has been controlled by the Shadow King, the Chronicler, and other forces that did not need to break his skin. Temperature and energy can also matter when taken to extreme levels. His body survives conditions that would kill humans, but no consistent rule says he is immune to unlimited heat, cold, radiation, or magical energy. His armor is therefore best understood as exceptional protection against conventional physical harm. It is not universal protection against everything in Marvel's universe. Does Colossus stop aging in his organic steel form? There is no firm evidence that Colossus stops aging whenever he transforms. The original argument relied partly on the fact that his armored appearance has remained visually consistent since his debut in Giant-Size X-Men #1 in 1975. But comic book characters rarely age according to publication time. Spider-Man, Cyclops, Storm, Kitty Pryde, and countless others have existed for decades without aging at a normal, real-world rate because Marvel uses a sliding timeline. Colossus' consistent appearance, therefore, cannot prove biological immortality. His organic steel also does not visibly rust, scar, or degrade, but that only describes the transformed surface. It does not establish that his human cells stop accumulating age whenever he returns to normal. Piotr has matured over the course of his life. He was introduced as a young man from a Soviet collective farm and has since experienced decades of relationships, wars, deaths, resurrection, leadership, and trauma within Marvel's compressed chronology. His sister Ilyana died from the legacy virus before later returning. Piotr sacrificed his own life to spread the cure for that virus and was eventually resurrected. He has lived through the destruction and rebirth of mutant communities and the rise and fall of Krakoa, but none of that makes him immortal. His armored form may protect him from environmental damage and prevent visible scarring during many injuries. That can create the impression of a body frozen at its physical peak. Still, Marvel has not confirmed that remaining transformed would let him live forever. Colossus survives because he is durable. That is different from being ageless. Can Colossus survive space and other instantly lethal environments? Colossus can survive temporary exposure to environments that would kill an ordinary human almost immediately. Because he does not require oxygen while armored, vacuum does not suffocate him in the normal way. His metallic body is also highly resistant to pressure, temperature changes, and physical trauma. That allows him to operate underwater and endure hostile atmospheres, but claims that he can survive indefinitely in space should be avoided. Space presents more than an absence of oxygen. It includes extreme temperature variation, radiation, high-energy particles, and the possibility of drifting forever without propulsion. Colossus can endure exposure far better than a human, but Marvel has not established that nothing in space can eventually damage him. The same caution applies to deep ocean pressure and magical dimensions. He can survive underwater and withstand enormous pressure, but no universal depth limit has been established. He has traveled into limbo and other hostile realms because his armor protects him from many physical dangers. That does not make him immune to limbo's magic, demons, corruption, or reality-altering effects. His organic steel form is therefore an extraordinary environmental survival system. It removes the immediate need for air, food, and water and shields him from conditions that destroy flesh. But it does not turn him into an indestructible spacecraft. Someone still needs to retrieve him if he gets thrown into the void. What happened when Colossus became Juggernaut? Colossus became Juggernaut during Fear itself. Cain Marko, the traditional Juggernaut, had been chosen by the Serpent and transformed into Kurth, Breaker of Stone. That created an unusual situation. Cain possessed the Serpent's power while still carrying a connection to Cyttorak, the mystical entity responsible for the Juggernaut. The X-Men needed someone powerful enough to stop him. Magic brought Colossus to Cyttorak, and Piotr accepted the deity's power. This did not remove his mutant abilities. Instead, the mystical Juggernaut enhancement was added on top of his organic steel body. Colossus gained vastly increased strength, durability, magical protection, and the supernatural forward force associated with Cyttorak's avatar. But Juggernaut's power should not be explained as ordinary momentum that increases scientifically with every step. His unstoppable movement is magical. Cyttorak empowers the Avatar so that once moving with purpose, ordinary physical obstacles struggle to halt that advance. The power also affected Piotr psychologically. Cyttorak valued violence and destruction. Colossus began experiencing greater anger and destructive impulses. Piotr understood that the transformation made him dangerous even to the people he wanted to protect. He eventually asked to be imprisoned alongside magic and released only when the X-Men required his power. That is what makes his version of Colossus so frightening. His mutant body was already a powerful weapon. Cyttorak then wrapped that weapon in magical force and encouraged the gentlest member of the X-Men to become an engine of destruction. Was Colossus more dangerous than Cain Marko as Juggernaut? There is no simple answer. Cain Marko is not normally a mutant. His famous strength, durability, armor, and unstoppable movement came from his mystical relationship with Cyttorak. Colossus begins from a different physical foundation. Even without Cyttorak, Piotr possesses superhuman strength, tremendous endurance, and an organic steel body. Adding Juggernaut power to that existing mutation creates a uniquely formidable combination. But that does not automatically prove Colossus was permanently stronger than Cain at his peak. Juggernaut's power level has always depended partly on Cyttorak's favor, Cain's commitment, magical circumstances, and the needs of the story. Cain has sometimes possessed overwhelming power and at other times operated at reduced strength. During Fear itself, Colossus successfully confronted Kurth and held him back long enough to prevent further destruction. That is an incredible achievement. However, Kurth was eventually recalled by the Serpent rather than cleanly defeated in a simple strength contest. Cyttorak did desire an avatar willing to embrace destruction more completely than Cain sometimes did. Piotr's self-sacrifice made him a suitable host, but his compassionate nature also resisted what Cyttorak wanted from him. That tension is the real point. Colossus may have possessed the more naturally durable starting body. Cain had far more experience wielding Juggernaut power. Either one can become more dangerous depending on how much power Cyttorak grants and how completely the avatar surrenders to destruction. What happens when someone else writes Colossus's actions? During the Krakoan era, Colossus became the victim of one of the most disturbing forms of control ever used against him. His brother Mikhail Rasputin worked with a mutant known as the Chronicler. The Chronicler could alter reality by writing events as a narrative. What he wrote happened. Mikhail imprisoned and exploited him, using his ability to turn Piotr into an unwilling operative inside Krakoa. Colossus had no clear understanding that his actions were being controlled. He attempted to withdraw from the conflict and live peacefully in the Savage Land as a farmer and artist, but under the Chronicler's influence he produced paintings that secretly transmitted information to Russia. His girlfriend Kayla discovered the paintings and realized something was wrong. The Chronicler then wrote the next event. Colossus approached Kayla, embraced her, and snapped her neck. Piotr shed a tear because some part of him understood what he was being forced to do. But the Chronicler continued writing, suppressing his horror and returning him to compliance. This attack did not need to pierce his organic steel. It did not need enough force to bend his limbs. It bypassed his physical defenses by rewriting his behavior and circumstances. That is one of Colossus' most terrifying vulnerabilities. His body can stop bullets, explosions, and crushing force. It cannot necessarily protect his autonomy when reality itself is being authored by someone else. Is Colossus' personality part of his physical safety system? Colossus' personality is not literally a physiological organ or mutant ability, but his compassion is an essential psychological restraint on his physical power. Piotr is peaceful, empathetic, artistic, and reluctant to use lethal force. Those qualities matter because his body can cause catastrophic damage. A careless punch could kill an ordinary human. A panicked movement could crush someone. A full-strength attack in a crowded area could turn a rescue mission into a massacre. Colossus constantly regulates how much strength he uses. That control is moral, emotional, and neurological rather than a separate superpower. The Juggernaut and Chronicler storylines show what happens when that restraint is compromised. Cyttorak amplified destructive impulses and pushed Piotr toward rage. The Chronicler bypassed his will entirely and used his strength to murder Kayla. In both cases, Colossus' body did not become more dangerous because its metallic composition suddenly changed. It became more dangerous because the person controlling that body changed. That is why Piotr's kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. His gentleness is an active choice made by someone who understands exactly what he could do if he stopped caring. The safest version of Colossus is not the one with the strongest armor. It is the one who remains in control of himself. So what exactly is Colossus? Colossus is a mutant capable of converting all the tissue in his body into a living, organic, steel-like substance. The transformation increases his height, doubles his weight, grants enormous strength, and protects him from most conventional physical injury. While armored, he does not require food, water, or oxygen. He can withstand gunfire, explosions, pressure, extreme environments, and impacts that would destroy ordinary bodies. But he is not indestructible. Overwhelming force can bend or break him. Specialized substances can interfere with his metallic structure. Magic, telepathy, mind control, and reality alteration can bypass his physical armor. He feels pain. He can be psychologically traumatized. He ages according to Marvel's timeline and has never been confirmed as biologically immortal. The most important part of Colossus is not the metal. It is Piotr Rasputin. He is an artist and farmer who would prefer to create rather than destroy. He possesses the body of a living weapon, but spends much of his life choosing restraint. That is precisely why villains, governments, gods, and even members of his own family repeatedly try to control him. A corrupted Colossus is terrifying. Juggernaut Colossus can tear through armies. A mind-controlled Colossus can kill someone he loves before he understands what's happening. But the ordinary Piotr is defined by the fact that he possesses all that power and still tries to remain kind. Colossus is one of the safest people to stand beside on a battlefield until someone takes away his ability to choose. And that is what makes him such a fascinating X-Man. He does not need a solo movie merely because he is strong. He deserves one because beneath the organic steel is a deeply human character who wants peace in a world that constantly treats him like a weapon. Let me know in the comments whether Colossus deserves his own movie and which character should go on to the physiological examination table next. Like and subscribe as always, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!